Students, this is lecture number 3 in our Introduction to Logic, and this is on analyzing sentences. So we're going to learn how to assess a sentence. So assessing means to figure out if a sentence, what its value is. In this case, is this sentence bivalent, meaning can it be true or false? That's the very first thing we're concerned about with arguments. The idea here is that we want to find bivalent sentences because those are the constituents of arguments because they make claims. The other type of sentences don't make claims, okay? If the sentence is not bivalent, meaning it can't be either true or false, then what is the purpose of the expression? So we're going to start with, we're going to always do this. We're going to start with the simplest things. Last lecture, we talked about the thoughts itself expressed as both subject and predicate put together to make the claim or the proposition. So now we're going to get into that even more. So a bivalent sentence is a sentence that is or can be either true or false. These are the basic components of arguments. These make claims and they express assertion. Examples of bivalent sentences include New York City is a city in the United States. I like to think about it this way as what it's represented underneath here, which is on one side, this could be true, represented as 1, or with union to the truth is one way to conceptualize it. Or we can think of it as false, or the opposite of true, or 0 case. There's no possibility of this being true. So New York City is a city in the United States. That's either true or it's false. Just as if I said New York City is a city in China, that would also be either true or false. Agate is not a type of quartz, also either true or false. And finally, normative claims we also treat as capable of truth or falsity. Things like legal norms and moral norms, and even the aesthetic norms, sometimes we'll treat them as capable of truth or falsity, in order to be able to reason from them, okay? So here's an example of a legal norm that we have. Full-time students should spend 36 to 42 hours per week on schoolwork. So if you are determined to be of full-time status, the idea is that's equivalent to full-time work, and that for every class you're taking, you spend the equivalent amount of time for the credits. Okay, so 3 credit hours, for example, if you're doing a 15-week course, would be 6 to 9 hours a week of work. Okay, and then if you have 4 or 5 classes, you end up with a full-time work schedule. But that's for education. The reason I'm explaining this is that a lot of people resist things like if I said to you, Norman Rockwell is an excellent illustrator. Okay, that might make you immediately want to say, well, that's your opinion. Okay. Instead of treating opinions as worthy of considering as elements or claims of arguments, we just dismiss them offhand. We really do miss a lot of information that we could consider. So we're going to treat these as capable of being true or false. Now, non-bivalent sentences are ones that cannot be either true or false. So they fall under certain recognizable types. I'm going to go over some of those types. First, let's talk about what we call interrogatives, which normally we just call questions, okay? So questions, who, what, why, where, when, how. These are the normal first or initial words that indicate that a question is about to begin. The final indication of a question is actually a question mark. Question marks don't exist in speech. So what we do is we raise our voice at the end. Okay, and this is a standard for some cultures for expressing an interrogative. Why do people ask questions? the purpose is to elicit information. Okay. So an example of a question is, how far is Cleveland from Naples? Next, there's something we call imperatives in logic, but we'll just call them commands because it's simpler. So a command is meant to direct action. It's often indicated by a sentence that begins with a verb and has no subject. So it doesn't make a claim about the subject, just as interrogatives or questions don't make a claim. They are trying to elicit information, elicit claims. Commands aren't trying to elicit claims, they're trying to elicit action. So here's an example. Wander through the arcade, listen to buskers, and drink the mineral waters served in porcelain cups. Okay, so each separate one is itself a command, and if the person enacts that, satisfies the command, then they would be performing those actions. Next are exclamations. These simply express emotions, often based on subjective expectations. Often they are also one word or one phrase, like phew or whew or oh my God. Okay. So those are all exclamations. They're expressing emotion that is based on subjective reaction. Often they express surprise, quick elements of dismay, things like that. Okay. But they don't make claims about the world, either internal or external. This would deserve a whole lot more time than I could get into, but comedy in general is not there to tell the truth or to preserve justice. It's there to express comedy or designed to evoke laughter. We can think about it either way. It's either meant to evoke or express, and every expression both evokes. And so a person who's a comedian or somebody expressing anything is responsible for both what their content evokes and what their content expresses. Okay, so I'll use it very neutrally on what the purpose is. It's on both ends. Okay, here's an example of a joke. I didn't attend the funeral, but I sent a nice letter saying I approved of it. Finally, suggestions and warnings. These express a preferable possible course of action. These are sort of light versions of imperatives. And these can either say, don't do this, a warning, or do this, a suggestion. Okay. So for example, maybe Route 5 instead of I-64 next time. Okay. So that's just a suggestion of a route. It doesn't make any claim about that. Next are expressions of wishes. We call these optatives. These are uncommon, but they're delightful, so I'm going to include them. These express hope or potentiality without making claims. Okay, so for example, if I'm making a claim, like a claim about something I wish, I would say, I wish I get to eat a pretzel tomorrow. Okay, so it's an expression of a wish. Okay, and I've expressed that wish by saying I am the subject. Okay, versus the way that optatives work, there's no subject. So it's interestingly similar to a suggestion or an imperative. First, you can do something like wish you the best or wish you were here. Okay, these are expressions of wishes. More complicated ones that we see, particularly in Southern culture, things like would that were the case. Okay, this is again an expression of an optative. Finally, nonsense or meaningless sentence. Before we can evaluate the content of a sentence, we have to make sure that that sentence has actual content. So meaningless sentences fail to express thoughts. "'Twas brillig and the slithy toves did gyre and gimble in the wave." Okay, that is a quote from a famous poem by a famous logician who wrote under the name Lewis Carroll. Okay, so in this poem, what he did is he took the wayward sound and he smashed them together, or he invented new words, and those words didn't actually mean anything. So Brillig has no meaning, so there's no conventional usage. And Brillig also refers to no phenomenon that is understandable or comprehensible. Okay, so there's nothing that it's talking about. Same with toves, gimbal, and wave. Okay, slightly interestingly, entered the English language after this poem was published. So for sentences to express cognizable or thought that is understandable to other thinkers, which again is what reasoning is about, okay, the thoughts must mean something. So thoughts must both denote and connote, okay? To denote is to refer to something that is understandable to others. So if I talk to you about being hungry, even though that's not an external state, that's an internal state, it's one shared and cognizable, understandable to others, okay? So denotation, something has to refer to something understandable. Connotation, it has to have an established convention for that word or mouth sound, okay? So in English, right, if I use the word blue, that has an established meaning to it. That's the connotation. And it denotes or picks out instances of blue in the natural environment. That's denotation. So it has what we call both sense and reference. Together, the whole sentence also has to obey certain things. So the terms themselves have to denote and connote, and the whole sentence as a unit must follow rules of grammar for whatever natural language or formal language it's in. Though for grammar, we wouldn't call it grammar, we call it syntax for formal. And it has to express a logically possible state of affairs. So given those parameters, I want you to conceptualize this famous phrase from Noam Chomsky. In what ways, connotation, denotation, logical possibility, or grammar, does the following sentence fail to express a thought? Colorless green ideas sleep furiously. So reflect upon this. In how many ways can you find that the sentence is meaningless or nonsense? And thus not bivalent, does not make a claim. Okay, so now I want you to match question, command, exclamation, humor, wish, or wish or meaninglessness, that should say at the end. Which type of non-bivalent sentence is each one of these? Okay. Number one, sheesh. Two, why so gloomy? Three, would it not be so? Four, close the window. Five, the circular square is purple. And six, I have a Jonestown joke, but the punchline is too long. That is our assessment of sentences. If you need to review it, now is the time to go back over it and make sure you understand how to assess a sentence as being bivalent or non-bivalent and the different types of non-bivalent. Now we're going to go to sets of sentences and see if they're inferential or not. If they're not inferential, they don't contain arguments, then what are they about? What is the purpose of the passage if it's not to make an argument? So we're going to go over these basic types. And for this, and often for me, when I'm giving you the information, I'm going to arrange it in a special way that to me makes sense. I'm going to put the most important thing up at the top, the thing you're often going to eliminate first, okay? So the very first thing I want you to eliminate in a set of sentences that express no reasoning is look to see if it's simply a report. Sorry, I'm pausing for a second to take a sip of. Okay. A report is a set of statements that convey information about some topic or event. So most of the time, and in fact, a lot of the time when I'm conveying information to you, I'm just reporting it, okay? Here's an example. Thunberg's mother was an opera singer and her father was an actor. She first learned about climate change when she was approximately 8 years old, and she soon changed her own habits, becoming a vegan and stopping flying on airplanes. So all that is doing is conveying information about the topic, in this case, Thunberg. Next is a statement of belief. The reason I want you to consider this next is because this is often confuses students on whether somebody is making an argument or expressing reasoning or expressing beliefs, okay? So a statement of belief is simply an expression of what someone happens to think, believe, value, care for, whatever it is that they're saying, making a claim about, the relation they have to a belief or even set of beliefs, okay? So for a statement of belief, first look for the subject of the sentence being a person or a group, or their beliefs. So here's an example. Mission statements are a really good, quick place we can find statements of belief. Sorry. Our vision is that the Chesapeake Bay and its tributary rivers will be highly productive and in good health. Okay, so that is a mission statement from Chesapeake Bay Foundation. And this is what they are claiming is their vision or their values, future values, future goals. Now, I want to practice this with you because I want you to make sure that you can discern between something that's making a claim and something that's making a claim about beliefs, okay? So for these two statements, I want you to identify the subject of each of the sentences. So first, I believe that the people and the people alone are the motive force in the making of world history. Number two, we believe that this wonderful world has been further enriched by a new beauty, the beauty of speed. Okay, so here are the two statements. What is the subject of those statements? If you said the subject of statement number one was I and the subject of statement number two was we, you are correct, okay? These are the subjects. The subjects aren't anything after, right, whatever comes before the verb. And the verb that's doing the work in these statements of belief is believe, okay? So it's true, not if this wonderful world has been further enriched by a new beauty, the beauty of speed. It's true if we believe it. If we believe that this wonderful world has been further enriched, then it's true. And if we don't believe it, then it's false. So I want you to conceptualize statements of belief this way and try to avoid them as parts of arguments. We often, especially in the South, we're sort of structured to believe that when we're arguing, we should present our arguments or coach them in very palatable ways, like saying, well, I believe this, and that's fine for colloquial talk, and it's actually very respectful. But when you're creating formal arguments and putting arguments into standard form, you don't want to mistake a statement for belief for an actual claim. Next is explanations. These are designed to answer why for some event, process, or phenomena. They aren't making an argument. They are instead expressing what is considered to be settled as a matter of process, event, or phenomenon. So for example, the sky is normally blue. This is due to atmospheric gases scattering more blue light waves. So you can often break these down into what's called explanans and explanandum, okay? And this is what is doing the explaining and what is being explained. In this case, what is being explained is the sky looking blue. The next one, ocean kayaks are longer and narrower than whitewater kayaks since they focus on speed over maneuverability. Okay, so those are examples of explanations. An illustration you can often also break into two parts. The part that gives the illustration or demonstrates the claim, okay? We often use indicator words like for example, or e.g., which means exempli gratia. Okay, so here's an example of an illustration or example of an example. Some cars have very bad reputations, such as Jeeps, Priuses, and British cars. Okay. Next is a piece of advice or warning. These recommend a course of action or urge consideration of dangers. For example, I have 2 words to offer: hair gel. Sorry, that word came out weird. Let me say it again. I have 2 words to offer: hair gel. Many products are available that will tame his mane. Okay, so now I want you to go through, is this an explanation? Is it a report? Is it an illustration? Is it a statement of belief? Or is it an advice or warning? 1, studies have shown that some groups of people may be affected more by post-COVID conditions. These are examples: people who have experienced more severe COVID-19 illness, people who had underlying health conditions prior to COVID-19, and people who did not get a COVID-19 vaccine. So which type of non-inferential passage is this? Next. People wonder why toothpaste and OJ taste bad together. Well, toothpaste contains sodium lauryl sulfate. That creates bubbles when you brush and suppresses sweet receptors and destroys compounds which block bitter receptors. SLS not only cuts orange juice's sweetness, but promotes its natural bitterness too. Here's another one. Which type of non-inferential passage? Ask yourself, more importantly, do you know your friend well enough to judge whether she would be grateful or embarrassed? And the last 2. One of the most costly chemical disasters in the United States involved Life Science Products Company, which made the pesticide Kepone. It operated only 16 months in Hopewell, Virginia, yet managed to poison its workers and pollute the environment, causing millions of dollars of damage. Last one. But we refuse to believe that the Bank of Justice is bankrupt. We refuse to believe that there are insufficient funds in the great vaults of opportunity of this nation. So hopefully by the end of this, you will have been able to identify and define types of non-bivalent sentences and be able to identify and define types of non-inferential passages.